When a loved one passes away, it leaves a gaping hole that's very hard to fill.
There are ways to cope with grief counseling, treatment for depression, or some people find solace in the words of a medium who can pass on messages from beyond the grave.
When I was a younger child and I'd be laying in bed at night, I would see faces, I'd hear voices, and it was very scary.
She didn't know it at the time, but young Debra Martin was having her first experiences as a medium. She could see dead people.
They knew I could hear them and see them, so they'd present themselves to me.
Then, about 12 years ago, Martin was in a serious car accident, a near-death experience.
At that moment, I'm watching what's happening to me from another dimension, and I'm seeing it from above.
After being rear-ended, she saw another truck about to hit her.
And I hear, "Are you ready?" It's like a deep voice. I'll never forget the voice.
She said no.
And I said, "No, my life's too good right now."
Martin survived, and she learned something important.
I heard the voice. I know that we exist when we cross over. I knew that something powerful just took place.
She decided to find out if the dead people she saw and heard as a child were real. And she wanted to know if her near-death experience meant something.
I went to all different kind of seminars to kind of figure out what was going on.
Soon, Martin was certified as a medium by the Windbridge Institute in Tucson, and she had a website where people could learn how to contact her.
Each circle that I do is formed by your loved ones.
Now she holds afterlife readings, passing on messages she receives from the dead. Sometimes she meets people in groups called sitting circles.
Your son makes alarms go off. Okay, so if you hear the alarms and they go off out of nowhere, or your house alarms or your alarms, it's him.
Sometimes she meets people face to face.
But he needs to know his father's with him right now.
And sometimes over the phone.
When I feel like there's an emotion that starts where somebody's going to cry, I know that they are feeling the presence of their loved one, and I know we've made the connection.
One family at this reading in Scottsdale recently contacted Debra Martin after a tragic accident last July.
I knew that they had been suffering because they were in a car accident where they all survived, but their father didn't.
We had a blowout on our tire, and we ran into a disabled semi-truck on the side of the road.
Renee and Annie Bruno lost their father in the crash.
It wasn't him that lost control, okay? The car did it.
The first time they talked, it was by phone.
She went through the accident with us and knew that where each of us were sitting in the vehicle.
The father showed me exactly where people were sitting.
She knew how we were positioned, how my father was positioned.
That his body was on her friend, and that she was dealing with this terribly.
And it wasn't just their father's description of the accident that came through. Kathy Bruno said she could sense her late husband's personality as well.
His personality came through so strong. It was just like, there's no doubt, it's him. He's here with us.
There's just really no way she could know it other than talking to him.
The father came through telling me all of this because he wanted her to be healed, to say, you know, do not feel guilty, do not remember this. I was already gone before the accident actually occurred.
It just gives you that closure and that peace that we would have not otherwise had.
Sometimes it seems the dead can forecast the future. Take the case of Shelley Hendricks.
He had lung cancer. It was sudden.
Shelley came to me because she was so upset about not being with her father when she passed.
Shelley's father came through in a reading, and he had a message for her daughter.
You're going to be with a man by the name of Ron, and when he passes, you're going to go through the same experience.
At the time, Shelley had no idea who Ron was.
She said, "Who's Ron?"
3 years later, Shelley and her new friend, Ron, listened to a CD recording of the reading, and she again heard Ron's name.
She said, "Who's Ron?" And me and Ron were sitting there listening to the CD together.
Ron has a rare form of eye cancer, and they don't give him much time to live.
Because Shelley wasn't there when her father passed, he was telling her it was okay, that she would be there when Ron died.
And you're going to know that this is how I passed, and this is the gift I'm going to give you.
It was a relief just to know he was there, and it was a real relief.
And sometimes the dead can surprise the living. Sabrina Smith's mother surprised her.
My mother and I were never very close, and when she passed, I had a lot of a lot of pain and a lot of regret.
But a message from beyond the grave changed all that.
With Sabrina, she was at a circle, and her mother came through showing me this beautiful baby, and the mother was so in love with this baby.
I was like, well, I know that I'm done having children, so I don't know. I had no idea who this child was.
But Sabrina's mother was insistent.
Because she says that it's going to be a boy, and he's going to look very much like your brother, and he's going to be a hellion.
And then a couple of weeks later,
my brother calls me and tells me my girlfriend's pregnant.
Within a month, she emailed me going, okay, Deborah, you're right again, and that my mother was right. My brother's girlfriend's pregnant.
I said, oh my gosh, that's the child. I think that's the child that my mother was talking about.
It ended up being a boy.
I was like, wow, Mom, that was really cool.
What does Debra Martin hear when she communicates with the dead?
Sometimes I hear them as loud as I'm talking to you.
And what does she see?
Well, not only do they appear in my dreams, they'll appear sitting on, my bed.
Martin reminds herself not to be afraid and tells others the same thing.
Embrace what you're seeing, embrace what you're seeing and feeling and hearing, because it's real.
And she says it's all worth it.
I love what I do because I see the peace and comfort it gives others.